they don't deal at all with extraterrestrial travel, if you will, interstellar propulsion and stuff like that. It's not something they know anything about. And they make some really weird assumptions. They assume there is no interstellar travel, there is no colonization, no migration, and no reason why anybody would come here without wanting to sit down and have tea with them. And, well, look at it. How do we spend our money on this planet? We'll spend $1 trillion this year on things military. $1 trillion. And a lot of that goes for looking out for possible attacks from somebody else. We don't want any more Pearl Harbors. So we got spies in the sky and radar on the ground and all kinds of techniques, NSA listening over radio signals. And it can't. They say governments can't keep secrets, which, having worked on classified programs for 14 years, I say is utterly ridiculous. They can, of course, keep secrets, and in my books, I cite specific examples. I mean, we're not talking small secrets here, and yet, just the other day, an astronomer, a prominent one, Neil deGrasse Tyson, who's head of the Hayden Planetarium, he's a bright guy. He speaks well. He performs well in front of the cameras. He's charismatic, no question about it. And yet, when he spoke to 1,800 students at Penn State University earlier this month, he was saying, people making a big deal about lights in the sky, forgetting the radar visual cases, the physical trace cases, and all the rest of that. And then he said, this notion of government secret, you can evaluate that. Look how much we know about President Clinton's genitalia. They can't keep secrets. Like this, what kind of rationale is that? And it's disgusting that they get the airwaves. He also said, in another example of what I'm talking about, on the Peter Jennings mockumentary of February 24th, 2005, Dr. Tyson talked about the Voyager spacecraft, and it would take 70,000 years to get to the next nearest star. And scientists like to get their data, sooner than that, if you will. He doesn't tell you that the darn thing doesn't have a propulsion system on it. It's been coasting ever since it left the Earth. That's like throwing a bottle in the ocean and say, well, now I'll just follow it and I'll see how long it takes to cross the ocean. Or putting a kid's balloon in the sky. Oh, now I know how long it'll take to fly around the planet. I mean, these are absurdities. And the funny thing is, and this is where, you begin to wonder, every astronomer knows that the stars all over the universe, billions and billions of them, produce their energy by nuclear fusion. Now, I hope, we only figured that out in 1938, you understand, so it's not as if we've been around this highly scientific world for so long. Well, and I hope they also know that we know how to make H-bombs. The first one exploded in 1952, the power of 10 million tons of TNT. That was real progress because during the war, 1943, let's say, 9 years earlier, a big bomb was a 10-ton blockbuster. And we upped the ante to 10 million tons, and the Russians went up to 57 million tons of TNT equivalent. Well, it doesn't take long to think and look at the literature that one could use nuclear fusion to get to the stars in a reasonable time because it allows you to kick particles out the back end of a rocket that have 10 million times as much energy per particle as they can get in a dumb old chemical rocket. Now, it's as if this information didn't exist for these guys, and I find that extraordinary. They also, I have to admit, two different people, scientists, have said, Stan, look, if Roswell happened, and you're a big proponent of Roswell, surely they'd have had to pull half the professors out of the universities in the country to deal with that. And I said, you got to be kidding. Are you really unaware of the vast technological institutions that were set up during the war? They had plenty of places to go for people with high-level security clearances and high competence and great equipment where money was no object. Los Alamos, Lawrence Livermore, Sandia Corporation, Oak Ridge, Hanford Works, a whole bunch of companies like Lockheed that put out the stealth aircraft. They only spent $10 billion in secret. I mean, universities aren't the only place where research gets done. As a matter of fact, when it comes to technological research, I'm saying they're the least valuable part of the group of places where you could go to get stuff done. And, it bothers me that they're so unaware of the real world out there. I shocked somebody the other day by saying, when I was working at General Electric Aircraft Nuclear Propulsion Department, way back in 1958, we spent $100 million that year. We employed 3,500 people full-time, 1,100 of them engineers and scientists. This wasn't 6 professors and 20 grad students. And we didn't publish or perish. We wrote classified reports. That was good enough for us. We weren't dependent on publishing or perishing. What is really strange, and Seth and I may have an encounter coming up in New Mexico about Roswell, and I like him. He's a nice guy.
Yeah, he's a very nice guy.
Yeah, and so I don't have any problems in that direction. But his failure to look, the whole astronomical community's failure to look at the real world in which we live is rather disturbing. And we have an entirely different vision of what's going on out there. I think the neighborhood is loaded with civilizations.
Mm-hmm.
There are over 1,000 stars within 55 light years of here. That's just down the street. And some of them are a billion years older than the sun. And what we're really going through is a real paradigm shift. First we had Ptolemy, who said the Earth is the center of the universe. Man is on top of the heap. And that's the way it is, folks. Then old Copernicus came along, 1543. The book was published. He died that same year. So he didn't get burned at the stake, which happened to Bruno in the year 1600. He had the gall to suggest, hey, folks, the Earth is not the center of the universe. The sun is. And all the planets and stuff go around the sun. Well, the church banned the book for 300 years. You see, he still left man on top of the heap. Now we're faced with a little dilemma. You know what? The sun isn't the middle of the galaxy. It's not the middle of the universe. Man is clearly not at the top of the heap unless you buy into the notion that the world was created in 4004 BC, according to Bishop Usher. I think it was October 23rd.
Stand by. You and I have to take our news break at the bottom of the hour. Exonation. A special guest tonight. The great-grandfather of ufology. Stanton T Friedman. www.stantonfriedman.com. We'll be back after the news. Don't go away.
No use talking when the shadows fall. Night birds come.
Are you considering calling a psychic to read your situation? Then consider David Champion, a psychic medium for more than 20 years with thousands of readings under his belt. David Champion will make you feel comfortable. He has proven to be honest and accurate. He's a straight shooter. There's no guesswork. What he sees is what you get. While he is a medium, most of the calls focus on relationships, not only love, but work, school, neighbors, and more. Need help with finding a job and preparing for the interview? Are you dealing with people who are obstacles in your path? For more information, go to davidchampion.com, $1.50 per minute paid by credit card with a minimum of 30 minutes. For your reading with David Champion, call 1-877-702-8598. That's 1-877-702-8598. Now you can dial in to listen to the X Zone Radio Show from anywhere in the world with Rob McConnell 24/7, 365 by dialing 213-401-0080. That's 213-401-0080. If you have a mobile phone or landline, the X Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is now at your beck and call at 213-401-0080. That's 213-401-0080, 24/7. 365.
My name is Michael Telstar, Canada's leading mentalist from Toronto, Ontario.
Hi, my name is Splenda, and you're listening to my dad, Rob McConnell, on the X-Zone.
This is Psychic Dorothy from St. Catharines, and you're listening to Rob McConnell.
Hello, my name is Holly Reeves, an astrologer from Astro For You, and you're listening to Canada's #1 paranormal radio show, The X Zone, with Rob McConnell.
Welcome to The X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Made love to an alien near Roswell last night. We strolled along together in the pale moonlight. I had a funny feeling that something wasn't right. I made love to an alien last night. When she gripped my hand, I was feeling mighty fine, but her fingers with mine would not intertwine. When I bent down and gazed into her eyes, they were big as donuts and blacker than the sky.
Explanation. Stanton T Friedman is our special guest this hour. His website is www.stantonfriedman.com, and we're going to be talking about Stanton's book, Science Was Wrong. And Stanton, how is science wrong about UFOs? I thought what we knew about UFOs was from a scientific perspective.
Well, there's only one chapter. There are 14 chapters, and my co-author Kathleen Marden and I, we also did Captured, the Betty and Barney Hill UFO experience. She's Betty's niece, has all the tapes and the inside scoop and all that sort of thing. This book sort of fell out of that, plus my book, Flying Saucers and Science. We realized that everywhere you turned, you found obstacles created by the stubborn, noisy negativists, if you will, saying something was impossible. And you might laugh at some of the things, but it's hard to raise money when the big shots say it can't be done. Let me give you a quote that summarizes the attitude. This is from Dr. Simon Newcomb. He was the top American astronomer of the 19th century. He was so important when he died in around 1910 that the president attended his funeral. Anyway, he wrote this statement: the demonstration that no possible combination of known substances, known forms of machinery, and known forms of force can be unified in a practical machine by which man shall fly long distances through the air seems to this writer as complete as it is possible for the demonstration of any physical fact to be, unquote. Now, the interesting thing is he said that 2 months before the Wright brothers' first flight. And he knew nothing about flight, really. The Wright brothers, two bicycle mechanics, they collected all the information they could find, and they found that they weren't able to calculate things using old relationships. They built their own little wind tunnels. They were experimentalists. They tried. They, change this, change that, see what's going on. But when you have a prominent person saying that, it makes it hard to get funding. And incidentally, I still have to laugh. They won a bonus of $5,000 when they sold a plane to the United States government within a few years at that time, because they were able to go faster than 40 miles an hour. Can you imagine? And that is just typical of smart people saying stupid things. And, surprisingly, Thomas Edison, there's no doubt that he was a creative genius. He had over 1,000 patents. Here's what he said in 1895. It is apparent to me that the possibilities of the airplane, which 2 or 3 years ago was thought to hold the solution to the flying machine problem, have been exhausted, that we must turn elsewhere. He was off just a bit. And so many of the chapters deal with things that had real significance to people. That is, people died because people listened to the big shots, making false claims without evidence, research by proclamation. So there's only one chapter that deals with UFOs, but we get into that question. Oh, well, there's a second one. Kathleen did one on the UFO abduction situation and all the dumb things that have been said by smart people and the attacks on the Betty and Barney Hill case and other abductions. And you see, we need to recognize that there may be people today saying things are impossible that aren't true either. And, space travel is utter bilge, said the British Royal Astronomer.